Welcome into another video, you guys. We're really talking about some wide receivers right now. In particular, second-year wide receivers who ran at least 240 routes as a rookie, right? So there's a lot to break down. We want to make sure, okay, we want to get these fantasy relevant players who played a lot and expected to play a lot as a sophomore. So we want to kind of go back into their rookie year, see how they did, see if there's anything that changed in the offseason that's going to change any kind of production for 2024. So if we put up the chart here, as you guys can see, these are all the rookies last season who at least ran 240 routes. Now we have a lot of greens, we have a lot of reds. You really want those dark greens, you want to stay away from those dark reds in different categories. And the first guy I want to talk to you about is right there at the top in the dark green is Puka Nacua, who on his routes 26.7% of the time he was targeted on his routes, which is why he had an historic kind of a season as a rookie wide receiver. And a lot of people are saying, hey, Puka Nacua is the guy. And yes, while I do think he is a very good wide receiver, regression is definitely ahead of him. I think Cooper Kupp's going to take another step above. There's a good chance that Cooper Kupp could be the #1 wide receiver for this team, and Puka Nacua takes a step back as #2. But people are just drafting Puka so high, and I know I've gotten a lot of flack on this channel because of the hate I've gotten for Puka Nacua, because I have Garrett Wilson above him, and nobody really agrees. But let's just go back and see what Puka Nacua did last season. As we said, he ended up with 105 receptions for 1,486 yards and 6 touchdowns. Puka Nacua was electric. He was great. He did a lot of things, whether it's a screen game, whether it's the short intermediate passing. He did it all for his offense. Matthew Stafford really started to really trust this guy big, especially when Cooper Kupp was out there with the injury. Let's put up the chart here. You see yards per route run, 2.59 yards per route run. And as a wide receiver, you want anything over 2 yards per route run. That's what you want to see from your wide receivers. Puka Nacua definitely gave it to you. So if you're just looking at this chart real quick, let's just glance at all these top guys, right? Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed, Tank Dell, Demario Douglas, Dontavius Wicks. Most of these guys have had some type of change happen in this offseason. And I want to really start breaking this down to show you guys some of these guys may not be as relevant as they were last season. There's going to be regression in a lot of these guys, but there's one person that I want to point out that his situation really did not change, and he's the only one in these dark green situations that did not change. And I want to make sure, see if you guys can catch it before I even tell you guys. So let's pull up the chart again here real quick. Rashee Rice, right? 25.5% of the routes run he was targeted on. Again, Rashee Rice was absolutely phenomenal. What changed in his situation? Well, #1, he's got this whole legal thing happening. We don't know what happened. Xavier Worthy was drafted, high draft pick as well. We end up getting Marquise Brown over there. We always have the Travis Kelce. So yes, his role as that #1 wide receiver, this sole wide receiver on this team, that's going to reduce a little bit. Not only his legal issues, he's got more company with him to lower his target share. Somebody that I'm a little bit lower on my own. And then even reeling back over to Puka Nacua, what changed in this situation? Well, Cooper Kupp's going to be healthy, right? He's going to get there and he's going to get his. He's a dominant wide receiver himself. I think regression is definitely there for Puka Nacua. But let's bounce back to Rashee Rice. Look at what he did last season. Rashee Rice, he ended up with 79 receptions for 938 yards and 7 touchdowns. He was able to produce, especially when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. Yeah, you're going to do some good things. But looking back at the chart here, I mean, look at the yards per route run, 2.39. He's up there with Puka Nacua. He was doing some good stuff, a lot of screen passes, right? A lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage, but he was able to get it done. He's a good wide receiver as well. Again, they've got a lot of people in this backfield. That's why I'm kind of regressing just a little bit on him. We don't know what the legal problems are going to have, and there's just so many mouths to feed now in this offense. It definitely could shine some type of regression for Rashee Rice. Let's go over the next guy here, going right down the list here. Jaden Reed at 23.3% of the targets that he ran, he was targeted on, right? I mean, it is what it is. He's the one guy. He's the guy that I want to point out. Let's just pull up the chart again here. Puka Nacua, what changed? Cooper Kupp's gonna be back healthy. Rashee Rice, what changed? Well, we got the legal problems, and now he's got a lot of more competition with Worthy and Hollywood Brown there. Jaden Reed, nothing's really changing with this guy, right? Christian Watson's coming back healthy for what? For 1 week, and then he's gonna be right back injured. They still got the same guys there. They still got Dontavius Wicks there. They've still got a lot of Bo Melton there, and Romeo Dubes, and what are they? Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. Nothing has really changed. Yeah, they added Josh Jacobs. That's not really going to affect the passing game whatsoever. Jaden Reed could be absolutely electric. If you look at the chart, I mean, look at the yards per route run right here. Jaden Reed, 2.05. That's the cream of the crop. that is the cream of the crop. Just look at the depth chart. Look at what we have for Jayden Reed. I mean, if we're looking at it as close as possible, I mean, you see that there's Christian Watson, Romeo Dubes, Jayden Reed, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, and Dontavius Wicks. So yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed in the Packers offense, but I think the pecking order has already been in place. Nobody's being added to this offense. No one's being taken away from the offense as far as the wide receivers go. I think Jayden Reed, he's got it made. He has got it made. I love to see what he has into this backfield. I think Jayden Reed could be a sneaky player. Let's go into the next guy here. We're looking at Tank Dell right here, 23.1%. He's up there too. Anything I said, over 20%, that's who you want to see. But what happened for Tank Dell? Well, they added Stephon Diggs. They got a little bit of Joe Mixon action, but there's more. With Stephon Diggs, he's going to warrant a lot of targets. You know he's a drama queen himself, but just look at what Tank Dell was able to do last season. Tank Dell ended up with the season at 47 receptions, 709 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Yes, he didn't blossom until a little bit later on in the offense, but now you're looking at a third wide receiver in this offense, in my opinion. You know, you got to have Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins ahead of him. Just look at the depth chart and see what I'm talking about. You know, I mean, you see Stephon Diggs there at the number 1 guy, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and I'm not worried about Noah Brown, Mechie, or Robert Woods whatsoever, but I think Tank Dell is clearly the third wide receiver in this offense. It is what it is. I mean, looking at the targets per route run is absolutely phenomenal as well. You know, you got 2.22 yards per route run. That's elite as far as it comes to these rankings right here. It's so good. He's one of the top guys, or the top rookies that was able to do it. I think CJ Stroud got a nice connection with Tank Dell, and that's why you see what it is. So Tank Dell, again, one of those things. Stephon Diggs, it's just going to take him down a notch. People are super high on Tank Dell because they remember what he did last season, but he's got some problems there because Stephon Diggs is there now. Let's move right along to the next guy we're going to be talking about on this list. We've got to be going over with Demario Douglas, 23%. Now, a lot of people are saying, yo, that's pretty good. 23%. Demario Douglas, undersized type of wide receiver, very fast wide receiver. What changed in his situation? Oh, yeah, 2 draft picks. We're talking about Jalen Polk, and we're talking about Javon Baker. Okay, they're adding more. If they're that responsible, saying, you know what, Demario Douglas, he's going to be the man. Yeah, we still got Kendrick Bourne here. We got KJ Osborne over here from the Vikings. But no, we're going to draft 2 rookie wide receivers that can get the job done. Yeah, that spells a lot of crowded room. And then you add on top of that, probably a rookie quarterback in Drake May. Who knows what the situation holds? A lot of people are high on Demario Douglas, and I get it. I understand where the hype is. I just don't know whether or not his role is going to be the same or even decreased from what we saw last season. You look at the yards per route run, which is my biggest concern with Demario Douglas, 1.70. He wasn't getting the yardage. Whether it's some short yardage, he's not going down the field with no boom kind of catches. He's maybe getting at the line of scrimmage, doing a little shimmy shake here or there. He's not really producing the way that you want him to produce. So Demario Douglas, I say just pump your brakes on it just a little bit. I mean, just look at the depth chart and see what I'm talking about here. You see Demario Douglas is kind of almost, you know, buried in there, right? Jalen Polk, Kendrick Bourne. Then I have Demario Douglas. Still got Javon Baker and Kayshon Boutte. I got to remember this guy from LSU and see if he's going to be anything. I highly doubt it. But Demario Douglas, he's kind of buried on this depth chart, in my opinion, and I don't think he's going to blossom the way that a lot of people think he's going to blossom. So let's move right along here to the next guy we want to talk about here. And we're looking at Dontavius Wicks. He's a guy that you see a 20.0%. So exactly 20% of his targets per route run that he was actually, you know, he was targeted on those routes that he was out there running for. Dontavius Wicks shown that he could be very productive. Now, he was on the field a lot more. Why was he on the field? Well, a lot of Christian Watson injuries. Well, the dude was injured. He missed some time. Wicks got on the field later on in the offseason. So that's somebody that you kind of have a caveat there. What's the problem with this guy? Well, he was on the field because of injuries. He wasn't on the field just because he started out the season that way. So a little bit different than Jayden Reed, because Jayden Reed has a solid role in this offense. Wicks does not. Let's just glance and look at a lot of the things on the depth chart here. As you see, you know, you got Christian Watson and Dubes, and you've got Jayden Reed, and then there's Wicks that's just sitting down there. Now, I think Wicks is super talented. He did amazing. Look at just what he did last season. Wicks ended up with 39 receptions for 581 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think that's phenomenal. That's great. I understand that. But I think his situations have to change, and you can't be drafting people way too high thinking that they're just going to repeat or get better from what they did last season. Look at the situation of the offense and then make your decision on what that's going to be. So let's just keep chugging along and talking about these wide receivers that's coming into their second year. The next guy we're going to go over here is Zay Flowers, right? Zay Flowers just missed that 20% threshold that I'm really kind of looking for the targets per route run. He's at 19.9 with 1.64 yards per route run. My problem with Zay Flowers is that he just wasn't getting consistent enough numbers. He would have some spike weeks where you have a chunk play, and if Lamar Jackson's going complete ham sauce, Zay Flowers was. But the floor is so low with Zay Flowers, it makes it really, really risky. I mean, just look at the depth chart and see what he has to go here. Zay Flowers is clearly the #1 wide receiver on this team. Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and Tylan Wallace. We got the rookie over there from University of North Carolina, Devontae Walker there as well. But there's no competition for Zay Flowers. He's got all the competition. The problem is they added Derrick Henry, which is a running fool, right? And now they got Lamar Jackson, right? He's not really the passing quarterback going out there throwing 300 yards per game. So it's already going to limit some of his workload on top of that. And it's just, it is what it is. It's to the point to where could there be regression? There could be. I think that they're going to be more of a running style offense with a Derrick Henry taking the bulk of the carries. So Zay Flowers, don't get me wrong, he's going to have his spike weeks, right? But you just got to be cautious, pump your brakes just a little bit. Move right along here to the next wide receiver we're going through, and that's going to be Josh Downs, right? Josh Downs, as you kind of see right here, 19.5%. Again, not quite to the 20-yard mark. What happened for him? Oh, I don't know. We just drafted a highly touted wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell, to kind of take over that #2 role, and he's looking really good in camp right now. But I mean, just look at the depth chart as you see right here. You know, you got Michael Pittman Jr. as the #1 wide receiver. You easily got Adonai Mitchell, I'm thinking, slotting in as the secondary wide receiver. Josh Downs, I have him slotted as a third. Alec Pierce as the fourth. Now, Josh Downs did okay last season. I mean, he was able to put up some of the stats. He just didn't have anything electric to be going about him. And now you get a wide receiver like Adonai Mitchell, not really looking pretty good for Josh Downs. Again, he's going to get some of his stats. Just look at what he did last year. You know, Downs ended up with 68 receptions for 771 yards and 2 touchdowns. Could that happen again? Possibly. Depends on what kind of volume that Anthony Richardson is. What do you believe? Is he more of a running quarterback, or is he able to deliver the football and start passing for a large chunk of yardage? We're going to have to wait and see. We really don't know, but I still think we have to hold on and wait a minute, pump the brakes on Josh Downs. Adonai Mitchell, in my rankings, is clearly ahead of Josh Downs. I think he'll take over more of that role. I mean, just look at the yards per route run right here. I mean, Josh Downs ends up with 1.60. Still, yes, pretty good. Not elite according to the other people that's in his profile, and as far as those rookie wide receivers last season. But we have to remember, his situation is changing. Adonai Mitchell's coming into the fold. We have to take account for that. So move right along. Let's keep on moving with these wide receivers. And we look right here, the next guy we really want to go over, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now, this is a guy that a lot of people are very high on, 18.9%, only with a 1.32 yards per route run. We have to see that light red that you see on this chart right here. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think he's a great wide receiver. We have to remember, at the University of Ohio, he's over there with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and he's probably the best wide receiver on that field. The problem is right now, he's again with some wide receivers and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. He's just sharing the football way too much. Could this improve with a situation there with Geno Smith? Absolutely. But what's the problem? Well, the situation is the exact same. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett is still there. So I don't see you're going to have a breakout campaign for Jackson Smith-Njigba. I know they want to get him more involved into the offense. It's just not happening. Just look at the depth chart and see what I'm talking about. DK Metcalf, clearly the #1 wide receiver here with Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba. You got your Bobo, your Young, and your Eskridge down there. They're not worried about it. They are completely irrelevant when it comes to the Seahawks. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. Look at what Jackson Smith-Njigba was able to do last season. He ended up with 63 receptions for 628 yards and 4 touchdowns himself. Do you think he's going to improve on that situation? Probably not. Let's throw up the chart here just again. Look at Jackson Smith-Njigba compared to a lot of these other guys on this list, right? Yes, he's light green. I get it. That red in yards per route run, that scares me, right? That means he's not getting enough yardage every time he catches it. Every time he runs a route, he's not coming up with much yardage. That scares me, right? So Jackson Smith-Njigba, again, somebody that everybody's really, really high on. They think this is going to be his breakout campaign. I think he won't break out until you either see DK Metcalf gone or Tyler Lockett gone. That's when you need to worry about Jackson Smith-Njigba. As of right now in 2024, I wouldn't have him very high on my rankings. Yes, I do like him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't like the guy. I'm just saying just pump your brakes a little bit and just kind of temper your expectations of what's expected for this guy. So, right. So the next guy I want to go over, let's look at the list. It's going to be Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison's going to be suspended, right? It's going to happen at sooner or later, probably towards the end of the season, when you're going to see maybe 3 or 4 games or whatever the case is that he will be missing. And that could hurt your team. You know, if you got a wide receiver that's going through most of the season for you and he's just not putting up points when you need him the most, do you really want to put some type of draft capital on Jordan Addison. And on top of all that, there's no more Kirk Cousins there anyway. So you already don't know what this offense is going to be. So you just got to pump the brakes. I mean, look at right here. Look at the targets per route run, what we have to go over. 17.2 with a 1.5 yards per route run. You know, in the gray, it's kind of meh. That's kind of what it is. So are you willing to draft a meh wide receiver who's not going to be with you when the time counts? Because his suspension is probably not going to happen until the end of the season, or towards the end of the season, when it gets close to your playoffs, your fantasy football playoffs. That's when you're going to need him the most. Look at what he did last season. You see Jordan Addison ended up with 70 receptions for 911 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Most of that was with Kirk Cousins. We have to remember that. You might even have a rookie quarterback coming in here, slinging the football, and J.J. McCarthy. Who knows? Or Sam Darnold. One of the two, right? Do you want to put your faith in that type of situation? I'm not sure. The last wide receiver that I really want to kind of focus in on this list would be Quentin Johnson, right? Quentin Johnson was a highly touted wide receiver out of TCU. He's got a little bit of the dropsy poos, right? Who knows what this situation is going to be? I know as of the recording of this today, it was just named that Herbert got some plantar fasciitis. Is he going to be able to rest? This inflammation of the padding of the foot just due to repetitive pounding. Is that going to be able to rest enough to maybe have Justin Herbert out there, maybe hopefully not missing a couple weeks, right? But if you're talking about Johnson, just look at the chart here. He didn't do very good. There's a lot of red on his chart. 13.3% target per route run. 13.3. That's not the best, right? You want to be able to get targeted. Now, he was over there with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I get it. Probably didn't get targeted for a lot, more of a decoy. This season, could he be the number one? Let's just look at the depth chart, see what I have it right now. As you see, easily Quentin Johnson I have as the number one wide receiver. Is that true? I don't know. Could be, could not be. They drafted Ladd McConkey. Could he be the number one? Could Josh Palmer? Could he be the number one? We don't know. Brandon Rice, does he end up being something for this offense? You know, the son of Jerry Rice. There's a lot of question marks that surround him. So I'm just taking my stabs on Quentin Johnson. He needs to stop with all the dropsy poos, catch the football, and be relevant for fantasy football. Do I think he can do it? Yes, I think he can do it. I think if he just works on his craft, focus on the football. He's 6'4". He's a big guy. He can get it done. Good red zone target. I like what I see from him. But let's just look at what he did last season. See what we can have some type of comparisons, right? Quentin Johnson ended up with 38 receptions, 431 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is a guy, right, that wasn't having the opportunity there because of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They're sucking everything up. And then when all of those went out with injuries, it was Joshua Palmer who took over for this offense, not Quentin Johnson, probably because of the dropsy action. So if he fixes it, he could easily become the number one wide receiver. He's primed to be the number one wide receiver for a quarterback that loves to throw the football. So let's look at this chart again, kind of go over in retrospect, look at it all together, right? So these guys, Puka Nacua, what changed, right? Let's go over it again. Cooper Kupp, still there. Could see regression. Had one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time. Rashee Rice, could it be a suspension? They added Xavier Worthy. They added Hollywood Brown, right? Jaden Reed, nothing's changing. Nothing's changing for Jaden Reed. He should be on everybody's radar. Tank Dell, what's changing? Well, we got Stephon Diggs there, right? Demaria Douglas, 23% target per route run. I like it. Great. What changed with him? Well, Jalen Polk came. Javon Baker came. Dontavius Wicks, what changed for him? Well, the team's coming back healthy again, right? You got Romeo Dubes there. You got Christian Watson. Wicks has fallen to that fourth wide receiver. He's not going to have the opportunities that he had last season unless these wide receivers get hurt as well. Move right along here. Zay Flowers, what's going to happen? Well, they added Derrick Henry to the mix, which means they're probably going to be more of a runs-first style offense. And you already know Lamar Jackson's not a pass-first type of quarterback, so that already limits a little bit of Zay Flowers. Let's keep moving right along. Josh Downs, what changed for him? Well, Adonai Mitchell came to town. Adonai Mitchell came to town, a very highly touted wide receiver out of the University of Texas. That's going to hurt his production altogether. Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's the next guy. What changed for him? Well, he's still in the same situation. DK Metcalf still there. Tyler Lockett still there. I just want to give you guys this information, right? Jordan Addison, next guy. What changed for him? Well, he's probably going to be suspended at some point of the season. And on top of that, he lost Kirk Cousins. So a lot changed for this guy as well. Move right along here. Let's move right along. Quentin Johnson, last guy. What changed for him? Well, a lot changed for him. Positively, right? So Quentin Johnson, somebody you possibly could target. There went Keenan Allen. There went Mike Williams, right? They did add Ladd McConkey. I get it. The problem is he has the dropsy poo. So there's a lot of red that you see here on the chart, but something good could happen. So if you take anything out of this video, I would say out of all the rookies who had 240 plus routes ran last season, I think Jayden Reed is the one you really need to be targeting. Look for regression on a lot of these guys. Their situations. Just get educated on what's happening, and don't draft just with your mind. Draft them with your heart. Just because of what happened last season, you're like, oh, they're gonna repeat, rinse and repeat. It's gonna copy and go all the way around. That's not how it really works, guys. But look, just wanted to give you guys some information, kind of help you guys out, dissect a little bit as we keep moving closer and closer to your fantasy football drafts. Make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button as well, and leave a comment down below. Out of these wide receivers who had at least 240 routes ran last season, which one of these guys are you more likely to draft? Are you guys still really high on Puka Nacua? Do you think he's going to repeat what he did last season, even with Cooper Kupp coming back? I mean, do you guys really know about Rashee Rice? Are you not worried about the suspension at all and draft him at a discount as of right now? Let me know down in the comments below. I would really appreciate it, guys. We're pumping out multiple videos each and every week to help best you prepare for your fantasy football drafts. I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.